A man who was struck by lightning while filming The Passion of the Christ. A man who gave up his entire Hollywood career to make a film about saving children. A man who has looked directly at evidence that would break most people. And now, this man is in tears. But it's not the numbers that broke him. It's what the documents revealed about what happens to the ones who can't be accounted for.
You get indicted for sex trafficking and then you order 6 drums of sulfuric acid right away. Are you really worried about your reverse osmosis plant right after you get indicted? I feel like
6 drums, 55 gallons each, ordered immediately after an indictment. And when Mel Gibson saw what was in those files, when he connected the same dots Jim Caviezel had been screaming about for years, his reaction was not confusion, it was confirmation.
Looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck. It's probably a duck.
But here's what nobody is connecting. The acid, the island, the missing children, and the man who tried to tell us years ago and was called insane for it. This is that story. Stay with me. Jim Caviezel has spent the last decade doing something almost no one in Hollywood is willing to do. He has stood in front of cameras, in front of live audiences, in front of anyone who will listen, and he has described in explicit detail what happens inside child trafficking networks. Not theoretically, not abstractly, based on operations he participated in, based on evidence he reviewed, based on conversations with federal agents who spent their careers in this darkness. And for years, the response from mainstream media was predictable. Dismiss, label, isolate. Conspiracy theorist, religious fanatic, washed-up actor chasing relevance. But something changed in 2024. The Epstein files started unsealing, and suddenly the things Jim Caviezel had been saying for years weren't theories anymore. They were court documents.
At the emails that have been widely circulated pertaining to the age 11, and I have it written down on my notes, the permission to kill email, the Snow White, the littlest girl was naughty, etc. And some of them pertaining to, jerky, whatever that is. Yeah.
A sitting United States Congresswoman on the congressional record, reading coded emails that she cannot explain, emails that match exactly what Caviezel had been describing for years. And then came the acid. Not a rumor, not speculation, a documented purchase order, part of the federal record, showing that Jeffrey Epstein, immediately following his indictment, ordered 6 55-gallon drums of sulfuric acid to be delivered to Little St. James Island. When Jim Caviezel saw that document, when he saw the confirmation of what he had long suspected about what happens to evidence, about what happens to the children who are never found, he broke. Not in a dramatic, performative way, in the quiet way. The way that happens when something you hoped wasn't true turns out to be worse than you imagined. Witnesses at a recent speaking event described Caviezel stopping mid-sentence, struggling to continue, tears falling as he described not the statistics, not the legal filings, but the faces, the children whose cases will never be solved because there is nothing left to find. And that's when Mel Gibson entered the conversation. Gibson and Caviezel have history, deep history. The Passion of the Christ wasn't just a film for these two men, it was a mission. And the price they paid for making it followed both of them for decades.
I went through hypothermia. I had to have open heart surgery. I was electrocuted, struck by lightning. I understand the necessity of what I was going to have to go through could help bring people back to God.
That was Caviezel in 2004, struck by actual lightning while hanging on a cross, and he kept filming. That's the kind of person we're talking about here. Someone who does not quit, someone who does not back down. And when that same man, 20 years later, breaks down in tears over what he's seen in federal documents, Mel Gibson pays attention. Sources close to both men described Gibson's reaction to the acid disposal claims as immediate and visceral. Not shock, worse than shock. recognition. Because Gibson has been saying for years, in interviews that mainstream outlets refuse to air, that Hollywood operates on a currency most people don't want to acknowledge, that the same power structures that tried to bury the Passion of the Christ, that blacklisted both of them for decades, are not separate from the power structures that protected Jeffrey Epstein.
Everyone is told, from Rupert Murdoch, from Fox, to every studio, look, if you touch this thing, you will be out, you will be done. You'll be finished in 3 years.
That's not Mel Gibson talking. That's a documented account of what happened to Sound of Freedom, a film about rescuing children, blocked by every major studio for 5 years. The same studios whose parent companies own the networks that aren't covering the Epstein files. The same networks that gave exactly 3 paragraphs to the U.S. Marshals rescuing 72 children across 4 states.
We were talking about on the podcast the 39 or 35 kids that were rescued in Georgia.
Yeah.
And it was a blip in the news. But meanwhile, I saw 1,000 articles on how mean Ellen is.
And Gibson, who watched his own career get systematically dismantled by media outlets he publicly accused of protecting predators, sees the acid disposal claims as the final piece, the evidence that what they were doing wasn't just exploitation, it was elimination, cover-up at the molecular level. Because here's the question no one in mainstream media is asking. If the acid was for water treatment, where are the other orders?
Was there orders for sulfuric acid before this? If they do have a water treatment plant, how does sulfuric acid play into water treatment?
That's the question that changes everything. The innocent explanation only works if the purchase is routine. If Epstein's island always had a desalination system, there should be years of similar orders. But the order appears after the indictment, not before, after. And Joe Rogan, who started that conversation as a skeptic, who actively looked for the innocent explanation, landed here.
It looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck. It's probably a duck.
It's probably a duck.
But the acid is just one data point. To understand why Caviezel broke, why Gibson reacted the way he did, you have to understand the architecture they're looking at. Because this isn't about one predator on one island. It's about a system designed from the ground up to be invisible.
They don't hit send, but they have the password for multiple emails, and they'll just go in, get the message, and then never open or close it, so it's impossible basically to track. It's just like a draft.
No sent messages, no received messages, no metadata trail. Draft folders accessed by multiple people who know the password, messages that exist but technically never were transmitted. That's not paranoia. That's documented federal investigation material describing how these networks communicate. And then there's the coded language, the emails that a sitting United States Congresswoman can't explain.
And so just quick follow. What is jerky? Like, what is that exactly?
I think that's the question. I don't know if it's like, and again, like going into specifically just based on what this is.
Jerky that needs to be walked to someone. Jerky that requires a cold, insulated bag. Jerky stored in downstairs freezers in specific quantities. Jerky rationed in 6 to 8 ounce portions. That is not how anyone talks about beef jerky, and everyone who has reviewed these documents knows it. Now, layer on the geography. Private islands, private planes, flight logs that read like a directory of the most powerful people in entertainment, politics, and finance.
It's an 8-armed octopus. And if you take just out, that arm will grow back. You have to take the head.
One arm goes down, another grows. The machine protects itself, not through some vast, shadowy conspiracy, but through something simpler and more effective: complicity, proximity, social architecture that makes predators look safe because the right people are standing next to them. And this brings us to the name that keeps appearing in these documents, the name that connects to Harvey Weinstein, to John of God, to Diddy, and now 5 separate times to Jeffrey Epstein.
She met Harvey with Oprah.
With Oprah.
With Oprah. So Katie, and she talks about this in an interview, and you know, before the trial, during the trial, we'll play the whole interview. She talks about the fact that if Oprah's with Harvey, then why should I worry about it? I mean, Oprah is the world's mom, who is not going to trust the person who's next to Oprah.
That's a victim, describing how she walked toward a predator because Oprah Winfrey was on his arm. Oprah, the world's mom, the most trusted woman in America for 40 years. Her presence didn't just suggest safety, it manufactured it. And after Heinstein's exposure, after Joan of God's exposure, after Diddy's investigation, after her name appeared in the Epstein files 5 times, the pattern is identical. Proximity, validation, silence, rebrand, philanthropy. But here's where it becomes impossible to look away. Because this isn't about celebrities. This isn't about Hollywood drama. This is about children.
So when you have 85,000 unaccompanied minors showing up in the last 2 years, being let into the country without the sponsor being vetted, DNA checked, background checked, I call it the economy of pedophilia.
85,000 children, unaccompanied, no verified sponsors, no background checks, no DNA confirmation, some of them under 5 years old, released into a country with no confirmed safe destination. And Jim Caviezel, who has worked with federal agents on actual rescue operations, who has seen what these networks do, asked the question that no one can answer.
When 85,000 children crossed the border this last year and disappeared, where did they disappear to?
Where did they disappear to? And now consider the sulfuric acid. Consider the coded emails. Consider the draft folder communication system. Consider the private islands with no public surveillance infrastructure. Consider networks specifically designed to leave no trace.
How many of the kids that are being human trafficked actually get discovered? We're finding this 5 here, 6 here, these
But how many actually are there?
How many of them actually are there? Do we know? We don't, right?
We don't know. And that phrase, we don't know, lands differently when you understand the architecture. When you understand that the children who aren't being found on purpose. When you understand that 6 drums of sulfuric acid were ordered to an island immediately after a sex trafficking indictment. This is why Jim Caviezel broke down, not because the evidence surprised him, but because the evidence confirmed his worst fears, and confirmed that the media, the institutions, the powerful people who could have stopped this, chose not to.
Why is this not a bigger story in mainstream news? This is one of the things that concerns me. I don't understand why you're not seeing this on CNN. This is
every day.
72 children rescued by federal marshals. A blip. 85,000 unaccounted for. Barely covered. Epstein files unsealed. Buried under other headlines. And Tim Ballard, who spent 12 years inside the federal government tracking these networks, was asked directly about the media silence. His answer had 2 parts.
Not very much has been, attention has been given by mainstream media. Oftentimes it's more innocent than cynical, perhaps, where it's just, this is too dark. I don't want to expose our audience to this horrific.
Too dark or complicit. And Joe Rogan, who spent the first part of that conversation looking for innocent explanations, ran out of road for the charitable version. There is a moment in Tim Ballard's interviews that explains why Jim Caviezel can't stop fighting this battle, why Mel Gibson supports him despite the career cost, why anyone who looks at these files closely is never quite the same. That was his first day. He stayed for 12 years, and when he describes what kept him there, it comes back to a conversation with his wife. 2 questions.
Close your eyes, and you're with your maker. You've passed through this life, and you're talking to your maker, and he has 2 questions for you. 1, could you have saved the kids? And 2, did you do it? That's your interview.
Could you have saved the kids? Did you do it? That question is not just for Tim Ballard. That question is for everyone who now knows what's in these files. Everyone who now understands why 6 drums of sulfuric acid were ordered to an island. Everyone who now sees the pattern of powerful people connected to powerful predators, connected to missing children, connected to media silence.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying for fathers and mothers.
Yeah, it is.
It's like the fact that, or brothers and sisters, the fact that it could be someone close to you.
Yes.
That's not analysis. That's a father talking. And it connects to what Mel Gibson and Jim Caviezel have both said repeatedly. This isn't a movie. This isn't entertainment. This is happening right now to real children. Jim Caviezel believes something is shifting. He's been saying it at conferences and interviews, everywhere someone will listen. He calls it the event.
I believe it's going to move a lot of whistleblowers to come forward, but not one. In the hundreds, maybe thousands of them worldwide start coming forward and telling the truth of what's really going on.
Hundreds, thousands, worldwide. And here's what gives that claim structural weight. The dam isn't broken, but it is cracking. Women who were trafficked through Epstein's network are coming forward with legal filings. Associates are being charged. A congresswoman is standing on record reading coded emails about beef jerky that nobody can explain. A film about saving children that was buried for 5 years made $200 million the moment it reached the public.
America right now and the world, when they see this, they're being reawakened because the media has lied too many times. And this is the strand that broke the camel's back.
The strand that broke the camel's back. The Epstein files are public record. The flight logs are public record. The purchase orders are public record. The U.S. Marshals rescue operations are reported. The congressional testimony about coded emails is on video. Jim Caviezel broke down because he's been carrying this weight for a decade, and now the proof is sitting in federal court documents for anyone who wants to see it. Mel Gibson reacted because he watched his friend get called insane for years, and the insane things turned out to be true. The question Tim Ballard's wife asked, the one that kept him in the field through everything he saw, is the question this video is asking you. Could you do something with this information? Will you?